In most of my videos, I talk about why I love living here in Moscow. You can see the Kremlin behind me. I love the metro, the 24-hour shops, the ease of life, the speed of services, the general sense that this city is designed to function. But as much as I love the infrastructure, the aesthetics, the convenience, that of course is not the reason why I've stayed here for so long. I am a very extroverted person, and it would be impossible to live somewhere if I didn't like the people. And I love the people here. Now, I'm sure if you're Western, that might sound odd, especially if your image of Russian people comes from movies or the news. You might think Russians are stoic, unsmiling, always trudging through the snow in a fur hat or something like that. But once you live here long enough, once you get to know the people here, something else really starts to emerge. There's a kind of warmth and strength which is very appealing. And the first thing that really hit me when I first came to Russia, and it hasn't gone away, is the hospitality. And I don't mean polite conversation and a cup of tea. I mean real hospitality. The kind that almost overwhelms you. Anyone who's been to Russia will know exactly what I'm talking about. I remember the first time I visited my partner's family, and they just wouldn't stop feeding me. I was full after the second plate. Honestly, I might have even been full after the first plate. But they kept asking me, do you want more food? Do you want more food? I said no, but they brought some anyway. And every time I go back, it's the same routine. Plates of food, endless amounts of tea, slippers waiting for me, questions about whether I'm warm enough or maybe they should open the window. You're not a guest. You're basically adopted. And I have to say, that's not just with people you know well. It's not just with family or friends. Even strangers here are incredibly warm. I've been in bars or pubs where someone has overheard me speaking, they've overheard my accent, and they've immediately offered me a drink. There's no sort of weirdness about it or no strings attached to the drink, just here, have a beer, here, have a shot, welcome to Russia. It's sort of built into the culture here. Hospitality is like a reflex. But here's a twist, because right next to that, there's something else that can feel really brutal alongside this hospitality, something else I love, and that's directness. You see, British people, we're not experts at saying what we mean. We soften everything. We apologize constantly. We suggest things instead of saying things. Russians do absolutely none of that. They will tell you if you look tired, or they'll tell you you've put on weight, or they'll tell you if you've done something wrong. They just don't dress it up in a way that British people do. I remember when I first arrived here in Russia almost 8 years ago, and I found this directness very jarring. I remember someone told me that I'd fucked something up at work, and they told me it very directly and very bluntly, but they meant it in a positive way, sort of to help me improve. But at the time I was so taken aback, but now I really respect it. I really like how this warmth and hospitality works with this directness, especially in work settings. People just say what they think. They don't waste time pretending to be polite. Like, if you come up with an idea at work and it's bad, they'll say, Johnny, that's a bad idea. And they expect you can handle that direct and honest feedback. And you do. You toughen up. The upside of this is, another upside is that this is not just, it's not just in work, this is a life thing. When someone in Russia compliments you, that you know they really mean it. There's no fake niceness. There's no passive aggressive stuff. It's just like real direct and real direct and honest. And that straightforwardness, I would say, it goes hand in hand with another thing I want to talk about that I like about Russians, and that is the Russian practical mindset that you see everywhere. Russians, especially the older generation, they really hate wasting things. People reuse plastic bags, they mend broken appliances, they save bits and pieces just in case. I've seen people keep furniture together with rope and hope, you could say. And honestly, it does work. I would say it's not a frugality thing. It's this like deep belief that things can and should last. They should be made properly, and that you shouldn't just throw something out because it's old. And it took me a while to really understand that, because I'm British. I come from a culture where if you have an appliance or you have something and it starts making a funny noise, you open your computer, you go on Amazon and you just buy a new one. And here in Russia, people will, they'll take it apart, try and put it back together, poke around, fix it with a paperclip or something, and carry on. It's about making do. It's about being resourceful. And of course, this is a partially an economic decision, but it's also cultural. Waste is seen as lazy. And over time, I've really come to admire that attitude. Something else I really like about Russia is something that really is like the bedrock of this pragmatism, and that's resilience. Russians are the most resilient people I've ever met. And Russian resilience, it's not loud or dramatic. It's this like quiet, unshakable ability to keep going no matter what. You see it especially in older people who've lived through economic collapse, political upheaval, loss, war, and they're still standing, they're still laughing, still joking, still getting on with things. And even now you'll notice it when things go wrong in life. Like the power goes out or something, or the street gets flooded, or a tragedy happens. People don't really panic here. They shrug and they say something like, "No, bывает," it happens, and then they fix it, or they wait it out, or they adapt. There's this like constant understanding that life isn't fair and no one's coming to save you. You have to save yourself. So people just figure things out. You have to keep moving. And this attitude, it's really powerful. And I think it's something, sadly, that we've kind of lost in Britain. Like, we used to be known for the sort of stiff upper lip, and this like sort of keep calm and carry on sort of attitude. And I don't know if you've really got that anymore. And that sort of ties into something else I've come to appreciate in Russians, which is community and reliance on community. You see, Russians don't necessarily trust big systems or institutions. They rely on each other. If you live in a block of flats like I do, and something breaks, you don't always wait for the government to sort it out, because it could take forever. My experiences prove that too. Instead, what people do, especially in the modern age, you get on your building's group chat on WhatsApp or Telegram or something. Everyone sends a little bit of money to someone who collects it all, and then they call a handyman, and that problem in the apartment block is sorted in a couple of days. People just do stuff. It's like a grassroots problem-solving mentality people have here. It's a way to avoid bureaucracy and avoid red tape. It's just neighbours helping neighbours. And I've seen this play out in all different kinds of ways with my own eyes. Maybe that's, sharing food. If someone needs some flour or sugar, they might write in the group chat, "Does anyone have any?" And someone will come round. Someone will help someone carry the shopping. Even I saw someone fix our lift. People watch. You watch your neighbours' kids when the parents are up to something. There's a sort of like a low-key, everyday solidarity that's not going to make headlines or anything, but it really keeps the country running. I also want to talk about another topic, completely unrelated to this. Something else I love about Russians, which is cultural richness. You see, Russians read, they go to the theatre, they know their literature. You might think they're quiet or cold, but you can strike up a conversation with a Russian, and before you know it, you're discussing Tolstoy or Tarkovsky, or I don't know, some obscure 19th century poet. It's just a part of everyday life here, this sort of respect for culture. Because the education system in Russia, for all its flaws, and of course it has many, puts a real huge emphasis on culture, and it shows. You'll meet taxi drivers here who have read more classic novels than most British university students. You'll find people who can casually quote poetry, or people who argue about Dostoevsky over tea or vodka. And it's not a pretentious cultural thing. It's a national norm. Culture isn't this rarefied thing people dust off for special occasions. It's alive here. It's part of the air that Russian people breathe. And there's this. I also want to talk about something else as well that I love about Russians, which is the deep connection people have to family. Because in the UK, I think we're pretty individualistic. Once you turn 18, you're out, you move cities. I don't know, maybe you call your mum on Sundays if you remember, I don't know. But here in Russia, family units are really tight. They live together, they help each other out, people look after their elders. And it's not just because they want to, many times it's because they have to. Because something like I mentioned before, you can't always rely on the state. For example, pensions might be too low, and childcare here is free, but maybe the parents are at work, so they can't pick them up. So families step in, grandma steps in, get your granddad to come and pick you up from kindergarten. Families become the safety net, and because of that, families tend to be stronger, they tend to be more interdependent, and there's a kind of, I think I want to call it a mutual responsibility that I think we've lost in the West. And my final point about what I like about Russians is something I never thought I'd ever say, is I've come to really appreciate Russians' deep connection to nature. Because I've never really been a nature kind of guy. Since I moved to London age 18, I've always been a guy who likes the city. I like concrete, I like neon lights, I like the smell of petrol. But after spending lots of time here, and of course that means going to the dacha or sitting in a forest with a barbecue, you're listening to the birds instead of car horns. I've started to get it now. And for Russians, what's really great is that nature isn't just a weekend hobby. It's a sacred thing. It's where people reset. And there's something I think that's genuinely healing about that I didn't understand before. I've been mushroom picking, and I've eaten berries straight from the bush in the garden of the dacha. I've sat under pine trees with a cold beer and no phone signal. And, it's great. And I've really come to appreciate how much it means to people here. Even the toughest, hardest sort of city guys will absolutely light up when you mention you're going to the dacha. And it's, or maybe you could call it escapism, but I wouldn't. I would call it a sort of balance between city and nature. So yeah, that's a few points of why I love Russian people. You'll heard in this video, it's not because they're always smiling or they're always easy to understand. It's because I really appreciate that they're real. They're sort of generous without being flashy. They're tough, but they're not cruel. And they're smart without showing off. And once a Russian decides that you're theirs, you're nash, you're in their circle, they'll move mountains for you to help you. And it took me a while to understand all of this, because when it comes to Russians, it doesn't always look like kindness in the way we define it back home. But it really is kindness. It's just delivered in a much more solid, practical, and grounded way. And it's one of the reasons, one of the big reasons this place, Moscow, Russia, has really come to feel like home for me. It's all about the people.